Okay, we're talking about the IRS's Dirty Dozen tax scams just released by the IRS for tax year 2021. This is all based on things that the IRS is seeing in the way of fraud and scams and criminal investigation reports over the last year. They send these out every year, and they just reported theirs for this year. These are going to be grouped by me so that the things that are kind of similar, we don't have to go through every single one of them, because there are some that are very closely related to one another, and we can talk about them all at one time. These are good to know as a consumer, because you don't want to become a victim of one of these tax scams. You also don't want to be an unknowing perpetrator of this type of fraud. So let's jump right in on these. The first three scams, 1, 2, and 3, relate to what they call phishing, with a PH, not an F. Phishing, phone scams, and identity theft. And what you're looking at there is thieves trying to get your personal information online, then filing a return in your name, usually for a refund of some sort. Then they're monitoring for that refund, usually through more phishing and through fraudulent means, and then posing later as an IRS collection official whenever your refund hits your bank account, so that they can pressure you into giving them that refund. The way to avoid this type of scam, these identity theft issues, to the extent that you can, is to keep in mind that the IRS never initiates correspondence relating to tax returns or collection via email or online or through initial telephone calls. Okay, that's just not how it works. Collection at the IRS is usually through an official or some type of written correspondence. They don't email you, they don't call you. When we're talking about collections of some allegedly past due amount, you as a taxpayer are given some appeal rights, and those people posing as IRS collection officials are usually calling you and wanting the money right now. They want you to give them payment information over the phone or via email, and that's just not how the IRS operates. So if someone is asking you to, or threatening you to pay them as an IRS person in charge there, then that's a red flag that probably the victim of some type of scam involving taxes. All right. Dirty Dozen, IRS tax scam number 4, 5, and 6. These all relate to preparer fraud and what they call deduction padding and inflated refund claims. Now, over the last year, there have been thousands of taxpayers that have fallen prey to this type of unscrupulous tax preparer fraud or deduction padding. In other words, giving you more deductions than you legally qualify for, inflating your refund claim so that you get a bigger refund, and presumably use that tax preparer that may not have credentials. Or even worse, sometimes these tax preparers are asking, in lieu of being paid, to get to have the taxpayer sign over the refund to them. A lot of seniors apparently over the last 12 months, and so the IRS is warning taxpayers to be on the lookout for these unscrupulous tax preparers. Okay, the way to protect yourself on this: tax preparers, anyone that is a professional that is doing these for pay, must have a preparer's tax identification number, or P10. So ask the preparer for their P10. And one of the things to look out for on these types of unscrupulous tax scams, there are unlicensed tax preparers who ask the taxpayer to let them prepare the return, pad the expenses, get the refund up as high as possible, and then sign the return as the taxpayer, but the tax preparer doesn't sign well, which they must if they're taking any form of compensation, and they must show their P10 number there as well. Be on the lookout for any tax preparer that's asking you to sign a return prepared by them, but they're not going to also sign the return and put some skin in the game here as well. Okay, that moves us along to tax scams number 7 and 8. Those are related to what we just talked about. Number 7 and 8 are excessive business credit claims and inflating income claims for those credits. What we're talking about there is business tax credits that are legitimate in name, although they are not always available to certain taxpayers, and preparers may be advising their clients to take these types of tax credits and doing a couple of things here, either inflating the income for the business by possibly creating fraudulent 1099s, for instance, for the business, because some of these programs, these tax credits have income thresholds that you have to meet. And if you don't meet them, be on the lookout for any preparer who is trying to inflate your business's income so that you should really take that tax credit. All right. Be on the lookout for the research credit, and the IRS has also mentioned the fuel tax credit. Seem to be business tax credits that are being abused in the last 12 months. So be on the lookout for those types. The next one, number 9, is fake charities. You may know that in 2020, the IRS allowed taxpayers to give charitable contributions up to 100% of their adjusted gross income for that year, or AGI. So charitable giving was a big deal in the last year, but as a result of that, there have been a lot of fake charities popping up and asking taxpayers to give under the promises of being able to write these off, and the taxpayers are shocked when they are not able to write them off, when they turn out to be fraudulent fraudulent charities that are coming at these taxpayers. Okay. The way to combat this is the IRS has a program, the Exempt Organizations Select Check, where you can call or check on the IRS's website to make sure that that charity is legitimate and that you are giving something that will ultimately be tax deductible. Right? Tax scam number 10. This one shows up virtually every year when the IRS releases its report, and it is frivolous tax avoidance arguments. What we're looking at there are people, outfits, taxpayers that spread this argument that taxes are somehow unconstitutional, that paying taxes is some type of a voluntary system and not something that is required if you owe taxes under the tax code. If you are hearing these types of arguments, or you're propagating these types of arguments yourself, stop doing that, because the IRS has never lost one of these challenges to the constitutionality of taxes in America, or the legitimacy of the IRS as a collection wing and compliance wing of the United States Treasury. Okay, so again, this argument never works. Don't try it. The IRS is looking out for it. Tax scam number 11 for this year is abusive tax shelters. What we're talking about specifically for this year is preparers who advise their usually business clients to join or create an IRS, what they call IRS code 831B insurance company to hide income. Now, there are legitimate 831B insurance companies. They're called micro captive insurance companies, just so you know. They are complex, they're complicated vehicles. It does allow these types of insurers to not report certain premiums, but look out for inflated premiums and unscrupulous insurance companies or preparers that are trying to shuttle their clients into these types of shelters. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If it's something that you don't understand, it's probably something meant to confuse you and maybe a tax scheme to avoid taxes. The IRS has specifically mentioned it for this year, so look out for it. Don't do it, especially if you don't understand. Number 12, the final dirty dozen tax scam for this year is offshore tax avoidance. This one also shows up virtually every year since 2009 when the IRS implemented its offshore voluntary compliance program, which, by the way, has collected more than $11 billion since 2009. It prevents taxpayers in America from collecting unreported income overseas and squirreling it away in offshore accounts, right? It is legitimate to have an offshore account. However, it must be a reported account, and those are reported on your tax returns every year, the amount of foreign income that may be in a offshore bank account. So be careful with that. Make sure that you are not failing to report what you need to report yearly as it relates to offshore accounts. Use an expert to assist you in the legitimate reporting of this type of, okay? And that's the complete list of the IRS's Dirty Dozen tax scams for this year. Thanks for watching.